show everything off. Cool stuff. Okay. Gareth, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Gareth, I'm producer at Flyer Films, currently working on distribution for a film called Standstill, about a girl who is on her way to a new house, and her fight to get through the gridlock turns into a fight for survival for her. And it's about how we treat each other in the world, and how much compassion we show each other. So yeah, that's about me. We've got two more films as well in post-production at the minute, and then working on development of another five projects across TV, feature, shorts, a little bit of everything. So
Perfect. I've just hit that subscribe bell as well, Hey.
hey.
I'm Thomas Shawcroft. I recently shot Rose Pandemic last. Well, we'll go for it all, but basically we shot it in the end of August and then released it at the end of September. And we're going to go through the process of the festival run, but then also of like an online release, and a little bit into the analytics as well. Cool. Actually, I might just quickly show. Just go into a trailer. You might get the audio off this, you might not. Just kind of see what we're talking about. Let's keep it there. Let's keep it so I can see what's going on. Okay, so Rose Pandemic, if you haven't seen it already, it's a 10-minute short film which stars Patricia Hodge, Alistair Hall, and Theo as well. Great cast and crew in terms of the actual production of it. The whole thing was based off. Actually based off so the director Daisy had this auntie, like a grandmother, and she was like the woman in pink, and so you'd go into this room and everything was perfectly flawless. So everything's built up around this kind of character. She doesn't leave her bedroom until like 11 o'clock. Like flawless makeup, everything is to that kind of like that level of like finite detail and presentation. And then her kind of obviously like social circle and all that stuff is not there, and so there's her and Reg just in this house, and that's pretty much where we kick off with our film.
She's everybody's grandma, really.
She is.
It's great. Like when you sent me to this right after you'd finished making it, before you submitted it to festivals, and it's just a lovely story about this lady and how she goes out there and finds new connection in an unexpected place.
Definitely.
I won't say more than that to avoid spoiling it. I thought it was really good, and everyone should go check it out. It's a great film.
I think some things in terms of like so essentially this whole talk is essentially for me it's actually a kind of following up talk from a talk I went to on Saturday, which was how to develop like an effective film festival strategy for 2021. And I felt it was an interesting talk, but actually they didn't really break down any of the actual specific films. And so I was like, okay, I've kind of been through a couple of different film festivals recently, with Rose Pandemic and yourself, Gareth, you've been through a couple of festivals recently. How much actually are you in the process, like in terms of the release and where you are right now in terms of the film itself?
So where we are right now, we released the film back in 2019 in September, so it premiered in Calgary, a competition there, then played Whistler, Bahamas, and a few more through the winter.
Mm-hmm.
We had a lot of disruption around March, April time last year, as you can imagine, with the pandemic. A number of festivals got delayed and pushed back. Some turned into digital. Some were initially pushed back as physical festivals and then went online. Some did both. So places like Edmonton had in the cinema and online at the same time. So we'd have a screening in the cinema in the morning and then online release on TV even in the afternoon. So there's been a big change in the way that festivals have been run. And where we're at now, we're coming towards the end of our festival run. We've been playing for, 12, 13 months now. We still have more to come. So there's a few more that I can't talk about. I'm under embargo, but that'll be coming very shortly. And then after that, we're going for public release. So it's kind of a traditional strategy in a way of go to all the festivals. We work from the big festivals to the slightly smaller ones, and done it in that way. But how about yourself? Rose Pandemic's available online right now.
I mean, I guess for me, essentially the kind of festival journey started off quite well. Actually, I'll quickly jump onto here and where are we going to? Completely organised as always. So essentially I started with like this management tool, which is Office Online, and that really helped me to actually kind of like understand the if it actually shows me what I need it to do. Okay, well, we'll go through this way. I'll come back to it. Basically, essentially, overall the production was built up over a 2-week period from pre-production, which started on the 1st of August. There was a window of like a week where we could actually write something fully and actually get something fully constructed. So whereas, in terms of your film is a much like longer process in terms of like I still kind of gave equal kind of like measures to the different elements of the production. So in terms of like I basically factored I kind of shrunk everything down, and I also said like
to this big.
we really need to do this in this time, in this budget, in this kind of area. And so what I found was like a really interesting kind of like process where you're looking at your schedule of when you have to finish and release your film, and you're kind of working backwards and going, okay, how much stress, like another minute or another 5 minutes of shooting or of script is actually going to affect the post-production pipeline. So that's kind of why I also wanted to kind of, the story felt right where it finished around 10 minutes in terms of the shape and structure of like these two. It was almost like 2 acts. It was supposed to be 3 acts actually, and we had written it for 3 acts, but then we had to cut. There was a middle section of the film where I think this is kind of like part of like getting to know your film. The more you live with the film and the more you see what's kind of unique about your film, you really start discovering what, on a back end of thing of like what's actually interesting about your film, but then also like what is in brackets like the hook to releasing your film. And I think that's one of the main points in terms of like what I slowly discovered was the film's like we obviously came up with the film, but then also like how to release it to an audience is different from coming up with the film, because you don't go, what's the audience gonna love? Like you kind of go, what do we want to tell? What's our story? And
I think it's important to understand your audience as well, though, when you're making the film, because you can make decisions at the moment that really affect how it's going to be perceived later. For us with Standstill, it's a very personal film. So we understood the audience because it was inherently Katya's world as a type 1 diabetic as the director. So pretty much all the decisions that we were making in the moment were driven towards that audience, and to help show what those people go through every day. And we were able to do that because she lives that life. But I think it's interesting, the two films that we've made this year, again, we've been able to work in that kind of thought process. So thinking, okay, so here's the story, and like you say, you start out by writing a story and making sure it's an interesting story and a good story, but then you think, who's going to like this? And it remains to be seen yet. We haven't released it to whether that's worked, but yeah, to the point where for one of the two, we even went back and did an extra day's worth of shooting. So we'd written all of these layers and had run out of time on previous days to actually get those shots. We looked to the cut and thought, the story really actually needs this. It needs it to bring it home and to add that final level of polish. So I think it's really worth, on both sides, understanding where your launch point is, but then also having a plan B to say, okay, it's not the end of the world if I need to add that extra level of polish in post, or go back and do an extra shoot day just to get what I actually need, that's okay too. And I think that really pays, and that's something that we've certainly seen through Standstill, is taking that extra month I think it took us for that film just to add that final level of polish, actually elevated the festivals we could access.
Yeah, I guess that's one thing that I kind of have in the back of my head with Rose, is like, you know, it's more
I think the production value is there though with that. So
it's much more of this is the film. This is what it's almost like a 48-hour film competition entry on steroids, essentially, in terms of like, you know, but I think that's kind of, it's interesting. It's definitely an interesting kind of, it's good that the film's become and is kind of a reactive kind of film in a way. And some of the things is like, for me, it's like, the package around what the film is like that was also shocking as well, when I was like, right, okay, welcome to Film Freeway, like, you know, what do you actually have to do? And for me it was like a massive shock, where it was like, just going to quickly show everybody, this will come up for you in a minute, Gareth, but like, essentially, obviously you have to upload your film. You have to upload a poster, a bio about the director's images, statement, a load of collection of other images, behind the scenes photography if you have it, trailer, if you have enough time, build a website. And now it's like, obviously so we finished production on the 25th of August. We've then got like a period of almost like 4 weeks and a bit to actually have everything finished and put up online. And there's me going, oh my goodness, is like, I think it's one of those things where I, you know, we definitely took on specific roles on the team in terms of what other people could manage, but also like, and Daisy and Harry had a bit of time to help me write elements of it. Charlie like built the poster. It all was going somewhere, and we all had that kind of collective vision, which was nice. But at the same time, I was like, wow, it's so much work in terms of like building that package, of building what actually needs to go onto Film Freeway, to not sell, like, I guess sell your, or present your film, let's say. That's probably the best way to put it.
It's all those extra bits, the press kit, and you know, the anecdotes and the fun facts and the things that are going to sell your film, ultimately.
Definitely.
Yeah, you start saying, yes, I've got a film, I finished. And then you go, oh no, I still got the same amount of work to do again.
And like, there's all sorts of things.
That's the nice bit as well.
It is quite nice to actually start seeing, and you do also like start kicking yourself, because you're like, oh, maybe I should have called a friend to come and do some stills photography on the day, and like all those things. You go like, not so much regret, but you're just like, next time I'll do this better. But I guess it is, I guess that goes on to like, you then start seeing, for me, I started going, this is a very much a micro budget short film, like super, like, we made it for £500, 6 HUDs all chipped in like 75 quid to this film. So that's pretty much like, we pulled in so many favors, all that kind of stuff. And so I'm like, what festivals would actually work for this film? Also then at the same time I'm going, what festivals can we even afford? And there's the other one which is like, how do we get it for free? Which is like, the compounding factor of like, what can we actually get in there?
There are some good free festivals. That said, on Film Freeway, there is a filter in the in the browse festivals, and there are some that you can upload for free.
I definitely I know that. I know that section very well.
The freebies.
But I kind of found like, so obviously it's my first time of even like uploading a film on Film Freeway. So it was definitely an interesting experience, like really interesting. Just gonna make sure I'm actually showing off.
There are other platforms out there as well. Shortfilm Depot, the others.
Yeah, I think there's like there was.
There's quite a few, and some just have their own submission form as well.
Without a Box's start, unfortunately closed. But that's they kind of took a monopoly, didn't they? Or a monopoly approach in terms of, But I think in terms of like, for me, in terms of like the process of like actually shooting, in terms of like actually kind of going, what festivals can I see this film playing at? And so I picked mostly regional, a couple abroad that I thought that would give us a chance, and then we also did quite well at Southampton Film Festival, and we also got a special award here at LIFFT, India Film Festival, which was just a special pandemic film, I think it was. But it was just interesting to see like one, where the film was actually getting slowly picked up.
Yeah.
A sort of obviously like not selected. We didn't quite fit into like some areas we wouldn't have fit into.
You're always going to get those as well as you do your research, and I think it's definitely worth doing that research and looking where you think the film will fit, and also if you're going to write a cover letter, putting in that cover letter some examples of other films from previous years and just showing you've done your homework, and it kind of makes people feel a bit loved, I think. There's an argument for reaching out directly to programmers if you know them, or if they publish their email in some cases. Some love it, some hate it. It's a bit of a Marmite thing. So it might work really nicely, or it might be you don't know until you try it. So.
I think one of the things I found is like, so I spoke with hello Andrea. Come and join the stream. We've got Gareth here. So we actually entered, where are we at? I think it was somewhere around probably like 25 in total at the end of it. If I'm roughly getting my quick math, maybe towards 30. And so most of them, obviously, we still have over half of them undecided. So who knows what happens with the second half. I think one of the decisions why and as a group we also decided this is like, it was more like, I do still see film festivals as like a great value, and it kind of is interesting as an audience kind of thing, but at the same time we were playing a lot of these like online festivals, and some of them or some of them they had like paywalls in front of actually people seeing your films, which is good to a certain extent, but also I felt that if you're not really having the same interaction. I've been to a couple of other film festivals as well with different films, and you're kind of speaking to filmmakers afterwards. You're kind of giving them an opinion about your film, and they're talking to you about the film you've made or whichever. and there is that kind of personality thing that I definitely think has not been achieved yet, and
Certainly.
would be difficult.
There are some really good ones that we've been involved with. Holly Shorts was fantastic in LA for organising those kind of events and trying to make it more face to face, even though everyone's dotted around the world.
That's good.
So they were really, really good. Fantasia was the same as well. And honestly, yeah, so I think the festivals that we've really enjoyed doing have been those ones that have really encouraged that extra element that you normally get from going to a festival in person. I think it's great that they can organise that and do that remotely as well, even though we can't necessarily travel. There are still some going on in person as well if you're based in the US or other parts of the world, Australia, New Zealand, where the COVID cases are particularly low, then you can still go to a film festival. So,
I guess, like, what do you deem in terms of, like, you've entered your film into many festivals and got some great screenings, in terms of your projected kind of like, where, like, when are you thinking of hoping to release it online, and then from, I guess also the other point of this is saying, like, from those festivals, what do you hope to gain, and or is it more of like that connection thing, or is it more, you know, hopefully pushing on towards getting the budget for the next film, or what's your kind of goal, I guess, in terms of
Well, I'll break that down a little. In terms of the plan that we have, we set out initially for a 2-year festival run. So that having started in 2019, we'll be releasing probably online the back end of this year, September, or through the winter of this year. In terms of the festivals itself, I think our aims and goals have shifted a little bit since we started out, because when we started out, the world was very different to the place where it is now. We've had to change what we want to achieve with those. I think a lot of it's about building an audience, and we've got a good audience in some places now that is much wider than we might otherwise have had. The film in itself has a natural audience hook amongst the type 1 diabetic community, and they're big and very vociferous in terms of their support. So we're looking forward to getting it out to those guys and letting the rest of the world see it, because not everyone's in the city where they can go to a film festival. So for us, it was certainly initially those connections, and Katie went to Calgary for the premiere, and
nice.
to Whistler as well in December, and then the world fell apart in the beginning of 2020, so that put a stop to us visiting. We were supposed to go to Florida and to a few other places, but that obviously wasn't meant to be. But actually, from that, we gained a lot from the face-to-face meetings, and even from the organised Zoom chats. And Katie had a meeting with a filmmaker she met on a Zoom chat at Holly Shorts only this week, talking about other projects. So there is still that interaction. I think it's really valuable and worthwhile to have that. But yeah, going forwards, the plan is to get it out to the public, and to hopefully share this message with as many people as we can, both within the core audience and outside of that, which in turn will lead on to other things. It's the selection in festivals has given us the ability to raise funds for the next films and the other projects that we're working on. It has given us good grounding to be able to start conversations with whether it's programmers at festivals for maybe the next film, or commissioners in terms of a TV route, or for other things. So once you have those selections and recognition outside of, you know, you've made a good film when you get to the end of it, but it still takes that recognition from a third party for you to be able to use that and to step on to the next level in your career. So that's really what we've been able to use the festivals for.
No, I think it's great though. I think it's really great that it's been, you know, starting those great conversations and just building up the reputation as well. I guess, like, did you find any that were festivals that you were like, personally, you were like, our film it just works really well with this festival, or vice versa, where your film was like, we entered into this, but actually on retrospective, like it's not really going to work, or didn't like, you just felt that.
Yeah, I think right from the very beginning, actually, the Calgary really jumped out at us, and we were so annoyed because it was on my. I actually made a bit of an error. It was on my plan, and I missed the closing deadline.
No.
And we went to a cocktail evening when you could, and bumped into another programmer from another festival, and he was like, "Well, why don't you just send an email to the programmer?" And I was like, "Well, isn't that a bit rude?" He's like, "No, I would. Like, if you send me an email, I'll send you a waiver code." And he almost kind of called us a little bit stupid for not not asking, because we'd already entered his festival and paid. So it was kind of a bit of an awkward conversation, but it sparked that thing. And we're like, okay, so it kind of gave us the confidence to reach out, and we wrote an email and said, look, actually we think this will fit. If you've got space and you're looking for something to fit this gap, then let us know. We'd love to share it with you. And a few days later we got a message and said, you know what, actually I am looking for something to fill that gap, so send me your film. Here's a code you can submit through Film Freeway, and they picked it up for the premiere, which was really good for us, because otherwise it would have been another year. But just that confidence to people are people.
Yeah,
you can reach out to them. They're really, really lovely. Most people are understanding if you make a mistake or whatever. There is a closing deadline, and a lot of festivals are hard and fast on that, but equally, there's no harm in just asking. The worst thing that can happen, you have to submit the next year. So there was Fantasia was somewhere where we, even from the beginning, we thought that this film really fitted with. It played there. There've been others along the way where we felt that it fitted as well, but hasn't been picked up. Even though maybe films that we played alongside in other festivals have played there in the past, and it just depends, I think, on the curation on the day, what works for that program that year. You can't always predict that.
True. I think it's like there's a lot of like for me there were certain film festivals that I was like, it would be lovely if we could get on here, and the film did suit a couple of things, but then I was like, actually, just trying to like find the right fit with of understanding the film you've made, but also like understanding what the kind of like general consensus, like obviously we tried to enter into Sundance Film Festival with a load of other similar down at production levels, all made through BAFTA shorts. Everybody had the same kind of like, 6 people together. Some people didn't put any money in, some people did put money in, and I guess it was one of those things where like the competition's always going to really be stiff, or maybe they're not looking for that kind of film. Maybe they're not looking for anything COVID related at all, so we're not going to be even considerable in the ballpark. I'm going to move on to.
I think it's worth submitting though. If you feel like it fits, I think it's worth submitting and worth mentioning that in your cover letter, or if you make a reach out in that form, because you never know. Maybe it is that kind of festival, and for a genre film festival, something that's around a genre. It tends to program similar things. They have an audience that they know, and if you've seen something in the past, it's likely that similar thing may be picked up again in the future.
Just trying to get back to this Gantt chart, but let's not bother with it.
You're still trying to...
Still trying to get to the Gantt chart. God damn. Okay, so I was going to say, like, for me, one thing really helped is I think also, I'm really glad I did this, but I spoke to somebody else beforehand about even just before finishing the film itself, probably about halfway through post-production, and I was like, how do you even do a festival plan? And like, luckily, I was helped out by a guy called Keith, who kind of took me through more just like an overview of really breaking down of like, so this is my, you probably won't see it yet, Gareth, it will come up on your screen. So this is my very colourful festival plan. Green is applied, blue is if we screened edit or won an award. So and orange is, or reddish orange is festivals that we didn't get into. And so every time I'd apply for the festival, or every time I'd think about applying for a festival, I'd put it into this kind of cheat sheet of festivals essentially that I was interested in, because then it kind of like, it brings it to a wider audience than just, also you can kind of see how much I even paid for, like you can start doing a budget breakdown from these. Sundance is very expensive, by the way. Crazy money. We
submitted to Sundance.
Yeah, we spent £31, and it was like, damn, it was really expensive. But I think it was worth it. I think also creating a Google document, like, or Google Drive, just to keep everything all together is really useful, like super useful. If you don't have those elements, then you're really are lost, like very quickly in terms of managing things.
It's easy to spend a lot of money as well.
Yeah, you easily start missing deadlines and all sorts of things. So, so basically, in terms of like the rest of the kind of like production itself, so we shot, pre-production was basically the 1st to the probably 20th of August, and then the 24th and 25th was the shoot dates. And the 27th of August to the 25th of September was our actually post-production. So pretty much a month of solid post-production. We did everything in terms of like, sound mixes, color grades. That was like 3 or 4 days, like really precisely managed basically. And then in terms of post-production, in terms of the actual kind of upload period, I gave myself 5 days just to kind of like safely upload the film and all the other elements. And then we released it. At that point, we got it into the first festival, and that was the 2nd of October. So from the 2nd of October, like, I then started to slowly work on like, right, I've got this film, there's all these festivals. We kind of created a highlight list of like 30 or 40 festivals, and you just start to cut down of what ones you can afford. Our total budget for all of the festivals was £121.25p. So that's our current budget. We might enter to like a couple more later on down the line, because I've started to become part of that networking group and understand it a little bit more. But I then started looking at other opportunities to actually release the film and get a little bit more traction, because it's great, you've made a film. Like, that's what I think about it. So you've made a film, and now you've got to get to go and, like, for me as a DOP, it's like you're obviously there shooting it and you're there constructing the film at that point. But after that point, you pretty much like, it's not really your responsibility. You're happy to like post and push it out as much as you can on your end of things, but it's a completely different ball game to actually doing festivals. It's like literally as a job, 100%. Like you do maybe an hour or two every day, you'll do really well at like actually launching a film. So
what I can 100% recommend is a social media manager, of whether that's a person or whether it's some kind of software like Later, or there's others available as well. You can sit there and plan it a week before, because it just takes all that stress out of the moment. You can actually enjoy the festival a little more, and you'll get more from the meetings with other people when you're a small team like that. For most of our festival runs, we spent a day in the week before just kind of planning out what we want to post, what the style is, and then scheduling all those posts so that they come out at sensible times that start to get people noticing the film. And we noticed a difference with that, especially the in-person festivals, that actually got people to, when somebody's got a ticket that they can use in any screen, it helped to get people in the door. So
that's a great idea. Like, so one of my things before even like releasing the film properly online, Movidium, I don't know if you ever heard of Movidium. They're like a commercial kind of creative kind of company. They were looking for films that had been made during lockdown and kind of created content. And so I managed to email them and say, look, I've got this film, like I can't really release it fully online. So then I just released it for like a week-long period on their platform, and I just kind of kept in touch with them. They've been really nice, and they've kind of been updating the links when I've made it public again. But that kind of brought a little bit of traction in terms of interest, and just slowly pushing it out. And kind of, I probably should have actually just put out a trailer or something like that on that at that point, but I was like, oh, let's get the film out there.
Did you find that people who'd watched it on their platform then transitioned and watched it again when you released it? And do you feel like they brought people with them, or word of mouth came with that?
I think it was only probably about maybe 70 views or something like that, in terms of like actual, and how it works is that you just, I was still hosting it on my own Vimeo, if that makes sense, at that point. So in terms of like this one here, this version of the film that I'm showing you right now on the left, like that film, that I only uploaded that 2 weeks ago. So the one that I actually did show, like I just kind of closed it down and got rid of it, because I then saw it started affecting, maybe it was just my own search engine, because I had obviously got the password to it and all that kind of stuff, but I was like, I don't really want it to affect the rest of the search engine kind of traffic, and I just want just one film being there is a very useful thing, instead of having a lot of different media components. So then we started entering, festivals a little bit more seriously. Then I started messaging over social media, love your film festival, is there any chance of getting any reduced rates or anything like that? But people abound, and people were really happy, and there were like a couple of offers going anyway of like 10 or 15% off or whatever, and it just all helps, because we didn't really have a crazy amount of money, and we knew around 20 festivals, like we wanted to kind of go, let's enter 20 festivals and see what happens after that point. If there's any traction, if it gets selected, if it gets any awards, whatever, just like some merits to kind of like push us to make a decision further down the line to basically, if we need to reinvest and put some more money in there. I set up an Instagram for the film as well. I think that's really important, just to kind of like, a lot of people are on Instagram in terms of crew and filmmakers and all that stuff. I haven't actually set up a whole website for the film yet, but maybe something in the future. I don't know if you've done that, Gareth, or not. Or
yeah, ours is hosted within the Fly Films website, so within our production company.
Okay.
So it's a sub-site within that. Really, it hosts. It's more of an electronic press kit in a way. Mm-hmm. It's got some film stills in there, and the electronic press kit that you can download, but some tidbits from Katia and the trailers on there. And it's really a way that encourages people to reach out to us to ask us to watch the full film. It's helped with some programming, and people have found their way there from other festivals and through the link, and so I'm really interested. Can I see your film? So I think for that was the biggest benefit of that, but also from an SEO point of view, making press releases when it has been selected in festivals has been really useful, because it's not necessarily going to get printed in the Times, but it actually, anything that's linking back into your webpage or your YouTube video, or whether that's your trailer, your actual film, whatever it might be, pushes that product further up the search rankings. So when you're talking about dilution, it has the opposite effect there, because there's more links available on a recognized press site, and you can do these for free. Then it just pushes, when somebody searches for your film name, it'll appear close to the top, which is ultimately what
hopefully we're close to the top here. Okay, so basically, obviously the one thing that we did do straight off the bat, and I think maybe it was Eva, Daisy, or maybe or maybe it was Charlie actually, that might have created and fully filled out the whole IMDb page. But I think IMDb is really a key tool to actually kind of like, set a point in stone of like, this is a film, it's got an IMDb page, it must be real, even though anybody can set it up, but it's fine, like it's another like tick, it's another credential. Like I think people definitely see it as a good kind of calling card for your film.
People use it.
I think the other thing that I was going to go on to is basically, so I basically set up the Instagram on the 12th of November, and then after that we then got awarded on the 15th of November Best Fictional Film for Southampton Film Week, and also Regional Filmmaker as well. And that then kind of pushed me forward to going, okay, maybe there is a life in this film. Like it was nice to be awarded as well, but like it's kind of like, it's almost like going down a deep dark hole for a long time. You're like, maybe there's going to be something at the end of it. Like it's not really about that, and it's more because you're not sending it out to real friends at this point, right? You're just sending it out to festivals, and maybe you send it out to a couple of friends and you got some great feedback and stuff. But for a long period of time, you're just driving, and there's like, you know, some like you might get an email and it'd just be like, oh, didn't get to the festival, and you'd be like, okay, another one done, like another one down, like, and it's just like being selected is great, like actually winning it is incredible, like, but I think still actually being selected is really good as well. Like in my head, it's just like
that first email you get when you've been chosen.
Yeah, it's actually
it's the best feeling.
It's definitely because it's such a lonely journey for such a long period of time. It's so weird to talk about it, but yeah. And then we one unusual one was just like winning the pandemic special award at the LIFFT India on the 25th of December, which was kind of like a nice little gift as well, which was, you know, in terms of just like a small little boost. After that point, you know, so, oh, here you go, here's a nice fact. 28 festivals we actually entered into in total. So we screened at like 4 so far, I think. And like over probably 10 or so, or 15 have said, maybe 10 have like said, we're not going to screen your film, which is absolutely fine. Like, you know, it just, you slowly find more boxes where it actually does work, and what festivals actually want your film. But basically the reason why I want to actually release the film before or around this time period, let's say, and I was in my head, I was like, I need to release it over this period because one, I've got the most amount of time to work on actually releasing the film, and so I was like, and also it's a bit more poignant if there was actually a lockdown happening, because at that point when we made the film, the lockdown finished, and then we went to another lockdown, and then the lockdown got released, and then it was kind of coming up to Christmas, and then now there's a third lockdown. So like really weird, but basically I felt that it was much more valuable if it was actually released within the lockdown, because it would start losing some of its relevance if it wasn't, and it was much more of like a current film that would basically make sense. So yeah, we basically released it on the 29th or 28th, probably 29th of December, on that day. And I also then did a massive newsletter out to 1,800 contacts. Got my beautiful email saying, here's a film to watch. Here's some interesting conversion facts. So on that first day, you can actually see a spike. So I decided to release it around 4 o'clock because I was like, maybe people are still like, you know, doing a bit of odd jobs or working or whatever, and I have to release it before 5 o'clock because otherwise they just won't get it in the email box, and then it will start becoming New Year's. So I was like, that's the last day. On the 29th was the last day for me that I could feasibly release the film, and I wanted to catch some people. I'd say it mostly did okay in terms of like the actual kind of like data behind it. 120 people actually opened the email. 150 people clicked through on that day, and I then also on that same day I got 50 emails from people saying that they are out of office until the 4th to the 6th of January. So I then at that point I was like, oh no, what have I done here? Maybe I should have waited. But you know, that's.
So 50 out of 1800 is not bad. You know, you might get some people on their holiday anyway.
I mean, it's more one of those things. And here's our quick deep dive into analytics. See, make sure I get all this on a page. So I'm just going to check this. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Okay. So essentially, like, this is us releasing the film on the 28th, 29th. This is our 100 views, and that's just purely. I didn't post it on anything else. I purely posted it through because I was kind of interested to see it from a release point of view of like where the actual traffic goes, and like how they actually convert into actually like looking at a video, watching a video. You know, I don't really care about average watches so much because like people can skip through, and Vimeo is a little bit like janky and it doesn't really work amazingly well in terms of the analytics side of things. But essentially that was the release, that was the hype, and it kind of quickly drops off because obviously it's New Year's. So it's a real quick trajectory. But then also on the 4th of January, I then released it on Facebook into a lot of different groups, plus also a lot of people it was a Monday as well. It was the first Monday of January. That's not really a bad time to actually release a video in terms of online, because a lot of people are kind of slowly, getting back to normality. So we got a peak of like 150 here, and pretty much the same kind of average viewing time as well, actually, mostly just kind of coasting around. And that was also through LinkedIn and also through Instagram as well. Like, so I don't really look at where those come from in terms of like transitioning to that platform, but any of those things can play Vimeo videos or easily click through to them. So I'm not too worried about that in terms of on the 3rd of January, I released I'll go into this and see if I can open. So this is actually the analytics for. Just going to jump back into my videos for a second and just get to the right one. Basically,
this is where we all get to see all of your goodies.
Yeah, there's loads of junk. It's like everyone else. So here's some interesting facts. And just make sure this comes across as well. So as you can see that, so this video was like released, I don't know, 1st of January or something like that, maybe. Oh no, it wasn't released the 1st of January. Sorry, it was like halfway through, maybe like, it was like 2 months ago or something like that, basically. And I just put it up online because Charlie, the editor, made it, and I was like, it looks great, I'm putting it online. I didn't actually make it public for a long time. But this shows you, in terms of like the actual click-throughs, there's actually not that many times they've actually watched this video. And this is basically the trailer that was actually put only, I didn't post it out again, it was only put on the Forbes article. And the reason why I got that Forbes article was because I sent it out in my newsletter. A journalist then came back in touch with me, really lovely journalist, and she basically was like, oh, I actually really like the story. Could I write an article on it? I've got a story that I need to write about Vimeo as well. It's quite like an independent piece. The one thing though is that because they're swearing in the short film, is that she then couldn't show the actual short film on that platform. Also, 10 minutes for an article is quite a long something for somebody to scroll through.
You need something bite-sized that somebody's going to.
Exactly. So 30-second trailer, she was like, great, and I was like, perfect, have that. And yeah, as you can see, it had lots of like going through the article, but actually not really many conversions to viewing the film. Or because I find that the way it was embedded, it didn't really want you to leave that Forbes page too much.
Yeah.
So
So it kept you within there rather than directing people.
Yeah, I definitely would say like, and then let's go back to
Well,
this.
one thing that we found that helped with that was actually using YouTube for our trailer. We've had a lot more organic reach through YouTube, but also through links with festivals, because it draws you into YouTube, and the link back to the whichever festival it might be has actually been very good for us.
I was going to actually say is, and this is, I'm going to quickly jump into this for a second. And essentially, this is our first peak, 103, which is the email one, and the second peak, 150, which is the kind of Facebook push out. And it kind of drops off here, right? Because I haven't really been pushing it that much after that period. And also short films, they've, you know, you've got 1.1k impressions, so that actually shows how many people have scrolled past or looked at it in some way, and the view rate is still pretty good. People are actually viewing it to a certain point.
Yeah, it's about 50%, right?
So at some point, halfway in the middle of the film, everybody drops off. That's it.
No, it's 50% of people who've seen your link somewhere that have actually gone and watched the film. So
yeah, no, completely. I think the one thing to say, so after I then got the forward article written and released the film, probably on the 6th of January, I then reached out to like local newspapers and local radio, and this is pretty much how I got this BBC Radio solo interview. Unfortunately, like there's no increase in terms of like actual coverage of view. It's more of a like nice thing to have, but I think it's that kind of thing where you have to be behind your film and trying to create that snowball effect, where the film gets kind of like naturally pushed forwards. And I kind of weirdly, even though I was featured in a Vimeo article and all that stuff, I'm not really, I'm not affiliated in any way, but like I would say that the one thing that I would say is like I'd suggest probably don't release directly over a holiday. Also, I would say like I've searched the film like Rose Pandemic a couple of times. Very mixed kind of like in terms of like how the actual search engine is actually optimizing right now in terms of where it is in the placings. But I would say the YouTube version comes up a lot easier. So I uploaded it to YouTube. I'm just going to quickly search for that. I might actually stumble across my own Rose Pandemic. Let's just have a search for it and see what happens. So like our beautiful actor Alistair did a great interview, which comes up actually weirdly quicker than our own. Oh, I've got it in a playlist, which is annoying. Oh wait, he's got a playlist. Okay, it's down here somewhere. One sec. I love having to go through a different film. 1 second. But this is the problem. Like if like these guys are great though. Like they have given this film a lot of coverage, and they've got 3.5k followers, so they are gonna pick up easier. But they have also pushed it back into Vimeo. So that's where that kind of closed loop comes from, really. But I think we've got over like 80 views or something now on YouTube. But again, I haven't really been pushing it a lot. Actually, I haven't pushed at all. That's just natural conversion of people watching or typing in short film or whichever. The Google Drive thing is really great for collaboration and also asking for help when you need it. Because I think one thing is like people go, like originally I was the production manager on this project, and then basically ended up producing the project because somebody actually needed to kind of like keep the film together. And so they were like, right, Tom, we knight you the role of producer. And I was like, okay, right, see how this is going. But I actually really enjoyed it. There's a lot of things that I kind of found out really interesting, and a lot of kind of like difficult decisions that I made throughout that I felt that were that had definitely developed me forwards. And also a WhatsApp group is great to actually kind of keep everybody together, especially in a short film like this where everybody is kind of like fairly equal in terms of and it just generally helps to communication, but also because we were so like every 2 or 3 days we do another like Zoom call or something like that to keep that script developing and keep that work ethic kind of going. But it also then now collaborates. The collaboration now helps to actually release the film and the effort of releasing the film. And then obviously like everything else that adds on top of it, like Alice Tool's interview is really great in terms of, and that's on YouTube. But I would say definitely YouTube is definitely a better search engine, and it does come up much more easier, the film, as when I've been searching it. So that's definitely a couple of things I've found.
Yeah, I think there's more organic reach through YouTube, and for whatever reason, the algorithm seems to work better to getting people into your film without necessarily input. Obviously, other things, Vimeo staff picks, if you're lucky enough to get selected for that kind of thing, really works very nicely because people follow the actual the channel specifically. So I think any channel that you can get involved with, whether that's YouTube, Vimeo, whichever platform you choose, is always going to boost your audience because there's an audience built in. And like you say, interviews with other people, whether that's with the director or an actor or whoever that might be, it all just helps to create the buzz around the film. Wherever you create a buzz, people are interested and want to find out a bit more. So
yeah, definitely. I think I guess obviously you're still, well, both still going in terms of like the actual festival. That's it. This is like a midway point probably for you. Like
yeah, it's midway. I think I'm still waiting for responses. I'm just looking at it now, about I think 20 festivals still to get back to us. We've played in 10-ish, I think, at the minute. So yeah, we're kind of midway through that process, and looking to now we're starting to plan that release strategy, and we have partnerships that we put in place right at the very beginning that we're reigniting to bring our audience in from wider places, and looking at how we do that. So that's the next step along the road. But then we're just starting again with our next two films. So we're coming to the end of post-production with those, and they'll be out pretty soon. So yeah, watch this space. Follow us at Flyer Films and subscribe.
Yeah, definitely.
You'll hear about them the first time.
I'll be putting all the links in the description of the films and your company as well. And thanks so much as well. Like I was going to say, there's a couple of little festivals on my list, and I managed to find the Gantt chart as well. Yes. Finally. Basically, Horsham Film Festival kind of got in touch with me, and they felt our film was quite interesting, and they were really interested to have it at the festival. Cornwall Film Festival I've seen kind of popping up. On a personal level, I was like, could our film go in towards like Encounters Film Festival? I don't know if you've tried to enter Encounters at all with yours, or
yeah, Standstill didn't make Encounters, but we've not particularly. For those who don't know, Standstill's a Canadian film, so it was shot in Montreal. It has a kind of North American style to it, and certainly a North American story. So we haven't yet had a UK premiere. We've tried and we've entered us in a few. We're still waiting to hear from a few as well, so hopefully it'll come soon. We'd love to share it with the UK, because I think it's a worldwide story, and it's had really good lift in the US and in Canada. But for whatever reason, it hasn't quite sat right with the UK festivals. And I can see why as well, having watched some of their selections and seen which other films that they've selected. It's right in that it doesn't necessarily fit with that aesthetic of what they've programmed so far, but I think it quite easily could as well. So,
Gareth, I'm just going to quickly. So, essentially, this is my beautiful Gantt chart. If anybody wants to have a look at it, it's kind of taken up most of our page now, I think. But essentially, these are the different sections. This is a great tool to have. Officetimeline.com. It's free. You can just, all I do is like print screen this at the back end of this, just so you can actually have it and send it around to people. But it's been definitely really useful. There's like Daisy visits the edit. this collection in the middle of the yellow and blue of collecting BTS not stuff. That was more of like a general hub of like, we need to be doing this at some point. And then the rest of the kind of post-production was back in like green and blue. And we start getting down to like QC down here. Finlay was our colorist, who was amazing, and works at Goldsmiths. Yeah, we were very lucky with the people that we managed to get on board. Yeah, I'm gonna kind of pull that back. Let's go try and do some magic here, and oh, there we go. We're full screen.
Based with the amount of time you spent editing this as well.
This is live editing.
Was it basically full time?
What, in terms of the production of this, or?
No, the editing of the film. To take, what did you take, 2-3 weeks?
I think it was, yeah, so the first of the 18th, that was our main kind of editing, so it was a good 3-week period. And yeah, I mean, it's very quick compared to other films that I've made. There's been months, and you know, you start going, right, no VFX, like all those things. But I think one of the things is like, still you can scale and manage pretty much any production level. This is what you could make. I wouldn't say this film cost £500. People put a load more effort into this. I'd say it costs probably like 10 or 15 grand, but it's still, it's difficult competition out there in terms of getting out your film. And I guess it's like, I kind of try to set my expectations at like very minimal expectations of releasing the film. I just was like, we were just all concentrating on making the film as best we could. And then afterwards, now it's been more of a process of finding out where the film can go, and that's pretty much the breakdown, really. There's a couple of things I missed, and I would have loved to break them down further, but it's but yeah, thanks so much, Gareth, and
thanks for inviting me.
Have you got anything else to add, or anything else you wanted to add at all, just before we head off?
I agree with you. I think it's super useful to make a plan. Have a template in OmniPlan. It's another version of the same thing, and make a Gantt chart. It doesn't mean you always stick to it, but it gives you the oversight to be able to decide where to make those changes and what else is going to change as a result. And as a producer, it gives you that ability to assess whether the decision that you're making is a good one or not. So sometimes you decide to take a little bit longer because it's going to help the film and push it forwards, and sometimes it's not. So yeah, making a plan is great. In terms of the festival strategy, absolutely have a plan before you go in. Set yourself a budget and stick to it. And do ask around for, like you say, for discounts. They are out there. Write a cover letter. Just helps provide that background information about the film. That's more personal than just what you post on Film Freeway, because that's the raw information, but the personal touch and all that work that goes into doing the research on which festivals you're going to enter. Otherwise, nobody knows what you've been doing. So I think it's all good stuff, but just put your film out there. It's the only way you're going to know, and you're going to get rejection letters, you're going to get acceptances and everything in between. You're going to get people that love your film, people that hate your film, and it's just it's great when you find where its home is, and you have people that really enjoy it, and there will be those people. So really just put the film out there and have fun with it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Gareth, for your time. This has been a journey of film festivals in 2020 and 2021. We definitely, hopefully, you've covered it. We've covered film freeway a little bit for you, a little bit of like about radio coverage and actually pushing out your film, a little bit of analytics of posting it on different social media platforms. And thank you so much for your time, and have a lovely evening.